Japan and China are two big countries in East Asia. China has the world's second largest economy, and Japan has the third. These two strong nations often do not agree. Some think a big conflict in Asia might be coming. There are old problems between Japan and China. They both claim some islands. Chinese government ships have recently sailed into Japanese waters. By 2027, Japan aims to have the third largest defense budget globally. Many in China see Japan as a rival. China is also growing its military in the Pacific. Japan is making its defenses much stronger. Japan has always been peaceful, but this year Japan announced it will double its military spending in the next 5 years. This is Japan's largest military growth since the Second World War. This action would make Japan the world's third largest military spender, after China and the United States. Why is Japan doing this? Japan believes China poses its greatest challenge ever. This moment feels like a final turning point in a long, difficult relationship. The big question is, where does this hostility truly come from? This introduction will explore their combative past and future. 2. Old friends, new ideas. Japan and China have a long history together. For many centuries, China greatly influenced Japan. In the year 645, Emperor Kotoku started new laws based on Chinese ideas. These ideas shaped Japan's government and daily life. Even in the 1800s, Japanese students still learned Chinese. China was seen as an important cultural guide. Chinese people were allowed special trade in the port of Nagasaki. Later, Japan decided to close itself off from the world. This period was called Sakoku, meaning closed country. For 215 years, the Tokugawa government kept Japan isolated. Most Japanese people could not leave. Few foreigners could enter. They allowed only a little trade with the Dutch and Chinese, but this was strictly limited. But even in isolation, Japanese people were curious. They studied European science, called Dutch studies. This included engineering, medicine, and military science. People wanted more foreign books. So, in 1716, the government allowed more outside publications. They even created a group to translate these European writings for the public. This showed a growing interest in new knowledge. Around the late 1600s, a new idea grew in Japan. It was called the National Learning Movement. This group believed Japanese culture was special and pure. They thought there was too much Chinese influence. They wanted to focus on Japan's own history and the Japanese imperial family. They wanted to remove foreign ideas, especially Chinese ones, which they saw as corrupting. Scholars in this movement wrote The History of Great Japan. This book showed Japanese pride. Shoguns like Tokugawa Tsunayoshi even helped fund this learning. Scholars like Kamo no Mabuchi taught that Japanese culture was natural and good. He said Chinese culture, with its strict rules, was unnatural and artificial. His work, published in 1806, argued that Chinese life had much suffering, unlike the stable Japanese dynasty. This national learning movement showed the start of Japanese nationalism. It promoted the idea that Japan was superior. It also created a general dislike for Chinese society and culture. These feelings would grow stronger in the years to come. 3. The black ships arrive. In 1854, something big changed for Japan. American Commodore Matthew Perry came to Tokyo Bay not once but twice. He came with a letter from the U.S. President asking for a trade agreement. His large black ships, powered by steam, looked very strong and new. They were unlike anything the Japanese had seen before. For 215 years, Japan had lived in isolation, a time called Sakoku. During this time, almost no Japanese people could leave the country, and only a very few foreigners were allowed in. Trade was very limited, mostly with the Dutch and Chinese. But Perry's powerful fleet showed Japan could not stay closed any longer. His visit truly ended Japan's long period of isolation. Japan had watched its neighbor, China, suffer just 12 years earlier. China fought the Opium War against Britain and lost badly. China was forced to sign unequal treaties that took away much of its power and land. Japan feared it would face the same fate if it resisted the Western powers. By the end of March 1854, Commodore Perry got Japan to sign the Treaty of Kanagawa. This important agreement opened 2 ports where American ships could refuel and get supplies. It also gave protection to American sailors who were shipwrecked. Soon after, Japan signed similar treaties with other strong Western nations like Britain, Russia, and France by 1858. These treaties often gave foreigners special legal rights in Japan, meaning they were not judged by Japanese laws. These were truly unequal treaties because they did not benefit Japan equally. These events made many Japanese people very unhappy. They felt the Tokugawa shogunate, the military government that had ruled for centuries, was weak. The shogun had not protected Japan from the foreign powers. A strong desire to change things grew. People began to support a movement called Revere the Emperor, Expel the Barbarians. This movement wanted to remove the shogun's power and bring the emperor back as the true ruler of Japan. In 1867, the last shogun, Tokugawa Yoshinobu, willingly gave his power to the emperor. The shogunate's rule officially ended, and the emperor's authority was restored. This marked the start of a new, important time for Japan. 4. A new Japan. The Meiji Restoration began in Japan in 1868. This was a time of very fast change. Japan moved from an old feudal system to a modern nation in a short time. The young Emperor Meiji, who was almost 15, became the leader. Before this, Japan was like its neighbor China, underdeveloped and traditional. But things changed quickly. The old system of rule, with its powerful feudal lords, ended. These lords gave up their lands. They became noble peers in a new parliament, like the British system. The samurai warrior class was also abolished. Samurai families lost their special rights, though they received a small payment from the emperor. Japan also created a new, strong army. In 1872, local armies of noble houses were stopped. A national army was formed, like those of big European countries. All men had to serve in the military for 3 years. In 1878, a central office was made to control both the Army and Navy. This office answered directly to the emperor. The spirit of loyalty, once held by samurai, now spread to all soldiers. This made the military strong and also helped change society. The economy also grew very fast. By 1880, major cities had telegraph lines. A modern banking system started in 1882 with government help for private businesses. Japan's first railway was built in 1872, and by 1890 there were over 2,000 kilometers of tracks. Trade grew a lot, with imports and exports increasing by more than 400% in just 34 years. Japan quickly became an industrial and strong country, ready to look beyond its own borders. 5. The first big fight. Japan and China both wanted control of the Korean peninsula. Korea was important because it lay between them. It also had vital resources like iron and coal for Japan. Control of Korea would shorten Japan's supply lines in a war with China. This made conflict very likely. Japan started to show its power. In 1875, Japanese sailors went ashore on Danga Island in Korea. Korean soldiers fired at them. Japan's ship, the Unyo, attacked back strongly. This led to the Treaty of Gangwa Island, which opened Korean ports to Japan and gave Japanese people special rights. Japan was now the aggressor. For years, China and Japan tried to influence Korea. Japan supported modern ideas, while China backed traditional ways and the Korean king. In 1884, a Japan-supported group tried to take power, but failed. Both countries then agreed to remove their soldiers from Korea. In 1894, a pro-Japanese Korean leader was killed by Chinese forces. His body was publicly displayed, insulting Japan. Later, a peasant revolt in Korea caused China to send troops, breaking a past agreement. Japan quickly sent 8,000 soldiers into Korea, ignoring the Korean king. Japanese forces marched into Seoul, captured the king, and declared Korea independent from China.
China then sent over 11,000 elite soldiers by ship, but the Japanese Navy sank their vessel. This showed China's military was weaker than Japan's modern forces. War began on August 1, 1894. Japan's superior army and navy quickly defeated China, cutting off supplies and surrounding Pyongyang. Japan easily won the Battle of Pyongyang on September 15, with many Chinese casualties. China's soldiers had to retreat. Japan then invaded Chinese land, taking Manchuria and Shandong, and seized Port Arthur. On November 21, 1894, Japanese troops committed terrible acts in Port Arthur. After finding mutilated Japanese soldiers, they took revenge. Thousands of Chinese civilians were killed, possibly up to 20,000. This was a brutal event. Seeing its capital threatened, China asked for peace. The war ended with the Treaty of Shimonoseki in April 1895. This treaty was very harsh. China accepted Korea as independent and gave land to Japan, Taiwan, the Pescadores Islands, and the Liaodong Peninsula. China also paid Japan a large sum of silver and granted special trading rights. This defeat weakened China, letting other European powers take advantage.
A strong Japan, a weak China. After the First Sino-Japanese War, China faced many internal problems. The Qing dynasty, already in decline, tried to make reforms to modernize its military and government. However, old traditions, a lack of strong leadership, and widespread corruption prevented these efforts from succeeding. China remained weak and divided. Many Chinese people became very angry about the growing foreign influence in their country. They formed a group known as the Boxers, who believed they could fight off foreigners. The Boxers attacked foreign people and their property, burning churches and missions. In 1900, the Boxers laid siege to Beijing, where many foreigners lived in their legation quarter. Several countries, including Japan, sent soldiers to intervene. This 8-nation alliance defeated the Boxers, and China was forced to pay a large sum of money to these nations as a penalty. Japan, meanwhile, grew much stronger and more ambitious. From 1904 to 1905, Japan fought and won a war against the Russian Empire. This significant victory clearly showed Japan's new power in East Asia. As a result, Japan gained control of Manchuria and the important Liaodong Peninsula, which included the city of Port Arthur. Japan also moved to take complete control of Korea. In 1907, Japan forced the Korean king to step down from power. By 1910, Japan officially took over Korea, making it a colony of the Japanese Empire. Japan's military and businesses then controlled many parts of Korean life, suppressing Korean language and history, and forcing Korean people into labor and heavy taxes. During World War I, Japan joined the Allied powers. It quickly took over German-controlled areas in China's Shandong province. In 1915, Japan presented China with a list of very aggressive demands, known as the 21 demands. Japan wanted more control over Chinese lands, railways, and mines. Some demands would have given Japan power over China's government itself, nearly turning China into a Japanese protectorate. Chinese President Yuan Shikai first refused these demands, but Japan issued an ultimatum, giving China a very short time to respond. With no other choice, China had to accept most of these demands. This event caused deep anger among the Chinese people and led to a strong sense of Chinese nationalism, often directed against Japan. 7. The darkest years. The early 1930s brought dark times to China. In 1931, the Japanese army made a fake attack on their own railway in Manchuria. They used this as a reason to invade. The Chinese army was told to leave, and Japan quickly took control of Manchuria. Only 2 Japanese soldiers died, but 500 Chinese soldiers lost their lives. Japan then created a new country called Manchukuo, with the Chinese emperor as its puppet leader. 6 years later, in 1937, Japanese soldiers fought Chinese troops near the Marco Polo Bridge, close to Beijing. This small fight quickly grew into a full-scale war. Many Chinese groups, who had fought each other before, now joined together to fight Japan. But even united, China struggled against Japan's strong army. In December of 1937, after a long fight for Shanghai, Japanese troops took Nanjing, the Chinese capital. What happened next was terrible. Japanese forces, led by Prince Asaka, ordered the killing of all prisoners. About 90,000 unarmed soldiers were murdered. Then, Japanese soldiers killed many civilians, leading to over 260,000 deaths, possibly as many as 350,000. Women were also attacked, and homes were looted. A German man named John Robb helped create a safety zone where many people hid. During these years, Japan also did secret, cruel experiments. In Manchuria, a place called Unit 731 was built. Led by Surgeon General Shiro Ishii, this unit studied chemical and biological weapons. They called their human subjects logs and did terrible things to them. Prisoners were infected with deadly diseases like the bubonic plague and cholera. Doctors also did vivisection, cutting open people while they were still alive, often without medicine for pain. Many experiments focused on frostbite and other tortures. Unit 731 also used biological weapons on Chinese cities. In 1940, a Japanese plane dropped infected fleas and food on Kaifeng, causing a bubonic plague outbreak. Hundreds died. Chinese officials had to build a wall around the infected area and burn it to stop the disease. Similar attacks happened in other cities, like Chengde, where more people died from plague. Japanese soldiers also poisoned water supplies and spread diseases through contaminated bread. These acts caused immense suffering and death across China during these darkest years. 8.
The world today. World War II ended in August 1945.
The United States used atomic bombs on two Japanese cities, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Soon after, the Soviet Union also entered the war against Japan. Japan surrendered on August 15, 1945. The emperor spoke on the radio accepting the Allied demands. After the war, American forces occupied Japan for 7 years. General MacArthur was the leader. The goal was to make Japan a peaceful, democratic nation. They punished war criminals and built a new government. Women got the right to vote. A new constitution was written. It said Japan could not wage war or have a big army. Japan could only have small forces for self-defense, working with American troops. In China, a civil war started. Nationalists and communists fought for power. The communists, led by Mao, won. On October 1, 1949, Mao declared the People's Republic of China. Beijing became the new capital. In the 1950s, Japan and China had some contact. Japan recognized Taiwan's government at first, but still traded with mainland China. In 1972, relations between Japan and the People's Republic of China became normal. Japan said sorry for the harm it caused in the war. China agreed not to ask for war money. Both countries agreed to have diplomats and trade. Today, some old problems still cause trouble. In 2005, many Chinese people protested against Japan. They were angry about history books and other things. In 2012, there were more protests. This time, it was about small islands that both countries claim. People smashed Japanese cars and attacked stores. History makes many people in China still feel angry about Japan. The Chinese government sometimes uses this anger to distract its people. Do you think Japan and China can truly overcome their long history of conflict and build a peaceful future together?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like, write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.